You're listening to the Round the Blind podcast with Ben and Levi. Thanks for tuning in. Be sure to hit subscribe for more content. Now let's get started. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to this edition of the Round the Blind podcast. This is the first week that we are starting to do the one episode with a guest and one episode with just myself. So for this episode, you are unfortunately just stuck with me and Levi. I know Levi's boring, unfortunately. I carry the show, but we will.
Because I talk the most, right?
But we will do our best. We're excited about doing this because we've only done one other podcast where it was just with us, and we were able to kind of talk to each other, and it flows well. We're obviously good friends, so we're
not
excited.
Saying it doesn't flow well when we have guests. We're not saying that at all.
It's
not a jab at anyone. He's just an asshole, all right? But
unless that's what I'm saying.
No, right?
No, that's not what I'm saying.
Maybe to some of the guests.
Yeah,
no, we're fine. So before we start recording, I came up with a great dad joke. So this is our second split. So we're putting out 2 episodes a week. This is our second episode. So our second split. Get it? Ha! First split, second split during duck season. I know, I'm funny. It's okay. You don't have to tell me. You don't have to comment on any post saying that I'm the funny one. All right, Ben's just the smart one, I guess.
He's an idiot.
But we're gonna talk about some good stuff. We don't have a certified expert talking with us. Like Ben said, you're stuck with us. But I still think we're capable of putting out some halfway decent information to these fine people.
Yeah. So
established 90 listeners in just over a month.
We're
That's
definitely
pretty good.
capable.
Not gonna lie.
We're definitely capable of providing some kind of content to these people, whether or not it's anything worth listening to. We can provide it. No, so we're gonna when it's kind of Levi and I, it's just gonna be more of us talking about what we do, what we're planning on doing. We're not having somebody come in here to talk about a specific aspect of it to give the ins and the outs of the waterfowling world. No, that this is just more of the kind of round the blind talk that you're gonna get.
And we're about to go round the blind.
Yeah, we'll go with
second
that.
Head joke. Under 5 minutes. Your kid sounds really upset.
He's not happy. He's getting a bath.
Your kid, he doesn't like baths?
He usually does, but he usually gets his bath at 7:00, but it's almost 9:00.
Oh, he's tired.
So he's way too tired. Yeah. So Hampton traffic got us today. So we went to Lowe's, and then we went to Bass Pro Shop, and we were out for about 4 hours just going to 2 places. So
yeah, I don't miss that at all.
Yeah.
I don't miss planning my whole day around traffic.
Yeah, I definitely wish that I could go back to a spot that's way less populated. So, but we're here until we're not, I guess. But so, anyways, this week this episode we're going to be talking about preseason preparation. Even though teal season is here for some of us, we're going to be talking about preseason preparation along with some plans that we have going on this year. So this will be a fun one. It'll be just entertaining for all of us to kind of have a conversation about, and it's a conversation that everybody has. So it's kind of excited about this one.
And if you guys do listen to this, when we post it on Facebook, and you guys want to add something to it, please comment on the post. Me and Ben have said this numerous times that we really do want y'all to be involved on the page. We have a giveaway right now, and only one person has entered for it, and it's a lanyard. So I get it. Like, a lot of people just have their lanyards, and that they're just content with it, and I get it. But
It's free stuff.
I really like to see. It's free. If you win it, you can sell it on the marketplace. Whatever, you know what I mean? Just come on, get our name out there. But yeah, again, touching on that, it's a lanyard given away by Ackley Outdoors, and then there's a bonus item that you guys are gonna want to put in for with. It's gonna be nice. It's gonna be a great conversation piece, just like the duck call promo for participating. You get 2 entries on the Tecton game call. All right. The piece is almost done. We're on the cusp of 400 likes. We're ready to give this thing away. I mean, I would love to transition from the lanyard giveaway straight into the Tecton game call giveaway. I'd love to be able to do that. But
yeah, and there's an opportunity. There's an opportunity for you to win both, and then you have a new lanyard and a new duck call.
Right, to go on your duck call.
And you didn't pay a dime for it.
All you had to do was invite your friends. Just 2 clicks. That's it.
Yep.
But yeah, that the lanyard giveaway, like I said, be good until Monday, the 14th. I think let's put it for 3 o'clock, whatever in the afternoon. So please, all you gotta do is like it, share it, and invite a buddy, and tag them. Then tag them in the comments, and then I'll give you a number. I mean, so far Eric Presley is he's Gucci, man. He's winning right now. And even someone else enters, it's a 50-50 shot. And he's our only top fan. So shout out to you, Eric. Appreciate you. I do appreciate you share all of our posts, man. I really do appreciate that.
And big thing to remember is that right now, the date that we're recording this is the 8th. So we just put it up today. So when you guys hear it, there might be some competition.
Yes.
So important if you want that call or if you want that lanyard and the bonus prize, go enter the contest.
It's pretty sweet. I like the color schemes he did. I like how it was blue and then it was like that gray and it kind of met in the middle. I thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah, it looks pretty nice. So, and again, I mean, it's free.
It's free. It's custom made. It's hand woven. Our good buddy from American Waterfowl, Jason Allen, he did it up for us. He's ever since we started, he's been super supportive of the podcast, and he always he's sharing stuff on his own Facebook page. He lets us share, advertise in his group. So we're also shout out to Mr. Jason there. Appreciate you, buddy.
Yeah, without a doubt. This week, so we're like I said, we're going to talk about a little bit of preseason preparation and along with what our plans were. But Levi, you had a pretty good hunt over the weekend. What happened there, man?
I got invited. I didn't do any of the work, so I'm going to start off with that. But no, I was talking to my good buddy Dave Duggar. He's another listener of the podcast. So we were talking back and forth. He said he knew a guy that had permission to hunt a field. He said he'd get me in there. We hunted a couple times last season. And I was like, all right, cool. And he went Friday morning. He told me Thursday night they're going Friday. I was like, man, I can't take off. I got work in the morning. He said, you ain't got any sick time? I'm like, man, that's not how the military works. I can't just drop sick time like that. He's like, oh man. And they went out and shot 25 that morning. Had like a couple hundred circling down. I mean, it was. I wish I was there for that because I brought my camera.
Early goose, right?
Correct, early goose, and it goes out the 30th, I believe. I mean, they're saying that it was like stuff you see on TV, just a couple hundred geese just circling around above them. And they only knocked down 25. I think they had like 5 guns or so. And then we hunted the afternoon, and we had good opportunities. It was a lot. We had a lot of geese too. It's just Dave. He only had man. It was just the silhouettes. You know, like those little like one-dimensional.
Yeah.
And they got over the top of them, and I don't think they cared for it because I was gonna say I have shells. Like, well, hell, they killed 25 of them this morning. I don't need to bring any. I don't need to bring decoys. But I think when they got over top of them, because you can see like their heads are kind of scanning back and forth, and I don't think they like something. So I don't know. It's like they saw them from coming up, but then when they got over them, they like disappeared. So I don't know.
Yeah, so those
If they're
silhouettes,
sketched out
man.
about that or not.
Those silhouettes, man. Some people swear by them. I won't say that I've never liked them, and I won't say that I've never had a place for them, but I'd rather use shells. That's just always
Well,
been
I
my opinion.
think
They're easier. They're easier to pack in and they're easier to set up. That's for sure.
yeah, I think they're good filler decoys for sure.
Yeah.
Like if you only have like a dozen shells or full like. So I went out. I watched this and listened to this, so I'm good. I went out and bought six Higdon, uh, six Higdon full bodies. No, not Higdon. Sorry, Avian. The Avian full bodies.
That's a pretty penny.
On they look good, man. Well, the night before I was looking on Film Stream and they're going for like 230, and then the next morning someone posted them on Marketplace for like 175. I
Yeah.
was like, oh, it's like say no more. It's like I'll come get them. So and they have these huge shell decoys, man. They look like tundra swans, but they're painted like they're Canadian geese decoys.
Yeah.
It's like you could literally like hide under them. That you
Yeah.
could that could literally be your layout blind.
Dude,
So
so no
we
joke.
used them yesterday
Dude, so
morning, Monday.
so no joke, man. Sorry to interrupt your story, man, but you brought up a point with
No, you're good.
hiding under those hiding under those giant shells, decoys. We used to hide under those because we were too I mean we were a bunch of teenagers. We didn't have money for for layout
Hmm.
blinds. So we used to go out there and we would lay in our sleds, our decoy sleds, and then we would take those giant goose decoys and the shells and we turn them around so that the head was at our feet and they come up to our about our necks.
Yeah,
And then
yeah,
those were our layout blinds because we didn't have the money
yeah. Right.
to go and buy layout blinds. All the decoys we had were handed down for. I mean, my buddy, his dad and him had purchased, tons of snow goose decoys. This was snow goose hunting, but he purchased tons of snow goose decoys. But like us ourselves, we didn't have money to have anything ourselves. So that's funny you say that because
Yeah. Right.
we actually used to hide under them.
Yeah. I mean that's still possible to do now. I mean, especially if you're in a green field and you got your layout blinds are, tan, like look like corn. Why not? Get you something to put your head on. Pull them decoys up, man. Especially in the early season, like we were saying before, like they're pretty dumb.
Yeah.
They haven't been shot at for probably, I mean, hell, 6+ months. So
Yeah.
well, they forgot a lot of that stuff. So
The only thing when it comes to early season that becomes a little bit difficult is they see that spot every single day. They know it. That's their spot they've been sitting on for 6 months, probably, maybe even longer. Maybe down there they've probably been sitting. They probably sit on it year round. I mean, I don't know how much they really migrate from South Carolina
right,
to Florida. I mean, I'm sure they
yeah,
move. I'm sure they move at some point, but yeah, I think they're probably sitting on it, most of the year down there. So you change anything, you mess anything up, they're going to notice it. That's the big thing that you run into with early season. But at the same time, man,
if
if
they
they
want to
know
be
where
there, they're gonna be there.
exactly, yeah,
Yeah, but yeah, I got the shells and got the full bodies, and we saw 0 geese yesterday morning. So I mean, that's how it goes. And like I was telling you, we found them in a tall grass field, and all we saw were their heads poking out of the field. So that's the first time I've ever seen that. But we're kind of talking about it before. I think it has a mixture to do with pressure and getting shot at. They might feel a little bit safer being in there, and kind of like what you were saying too. Is just they're here year round, especially here in South Carolina. So maybe it was cut one year and they went there, and then it's just muscle memory. I don't know if they're that smart and have that long term of memory, but I mean, I don't know. I have no idea.
yeah. So I know there's studies, and I won't quote a specific study because I'm not that smart, but I know there's studies that show that that birds when they migrate south and when they come north come back north, they will go a lot of the times go to the same spot that they lived at before they migrated south. And there's also studies that show that they will hit the same spots on their way through the migration.
Yeah.
So if they know,
I
from
mean,
the
it makes
previous,
sense.
yeah. So,
I just think they're just too stupid for that. You know what I mean?
yeah. I mean that you think that, especially like my opinion, like I always look at geese as being smart, but I always look at ducks as being a little less intelligent for whatever reason, and I don't know why. And I have no reason for feeling that way. It's just when I have a thought process on them, that's what runs through my head. And I really don't know why I have that, but I have that thought process. But I would think that geese would be more inclined to follow the same spots, but ducks, I always feel like it's easier to decoy them. It's easier to call them. It's probably just because that's my niche and I'm a little bit better at it. But I just have that thought
Right.
process, and I don't know why. But so I would have always figured that it would be geese that did stuff like that. But I mean, they're all waterfowl.
Hey,
They're all kind of they're all kind of from the same family. So, and like I said, I have no reason for believing that. So it's kind of stupid that I do. It's just kind of what runs through my head.
in the wise words of I'm not gonna say any names.
Yeah, you don't
Just
say his
be
name.
a dumb diver. Be a dumb diver.
So quick story, Dan. I mean, obviously nobody out there really understands the reference here because
It's an inside joke. I'm sorry.
This is an inside joke between Levi and I, and I won't go into too many details in case this individual is out there. But we were hunting with a guy who was not necessarily a fun individual to hunt with. And so we're out.
He was just goofy. He was goofy.
He was
an all right guy.
He was a good guy, right?
Yeah, he was just. You ever notice that? You ever notice that is that whenever someone says he's a nice guy, they have nothing else better to say about him after that.
Right.
That little nothing else better to say.
That's why it was a little difficult to talk about this individual because he is a good guy. He really is a good dude. It was difficult hunting with him. So we get out, we get set up, and it's, I don't know. I mean, we got out there pretty early. It's probably about an hour and a half before shooting light, and we're walking through. Yeah, so we're walking through the water, and it's not a place that I'd ever hunted before, and I think he had said that he had hunted there a couple of times. So we're setting decoys, and there's these holes all over the place. So you step in a hole, and it's down to your knee, and you trip and you get wet, and I mean it just kept happening to all three of us, just because it was a spot that none of us were really familiar
old
of.
stump. I think they're old stump holes. I think that's what it was.
Right. So he keeps stepping in these holes, and every time he steps in, he goes, "Hi hole," and he does it again, "Hi hole," and he does it again, "Hi hole."
Me and Ben would just look at each other, and then we just laugh. And then 2 seconds later, he'd say it again.
Yeah. And so it was about 20.
All right, man, I guess that's your thing.
I'd say it was probably about 20 times, and it was funny, So Levi and I, "Hi hole" is an inside joke. And then so we finally get set up, and it's about 20, 30 minutes before shooting time, and we see some light kind of flashing off to the side, and this guy, I mean, it's probably out there 700-800 yards away. I mean, it's not anywhere close to us. He gets his spotlight out and he starts shining back to him. I mean, which that's what we do.
Let them know you're there.
Let people know we're there. Well, their light stops, and they stopped right where they were, and you could tell that they started setting up decoys. And like I said, they're probably 800 yards away. In the state of Virginia, you can't hunt within 500 yards of a licensed blind. Even a floating blind is a licensed blind. So he's like, "They're within 500 yards. They can't be hunting near me." He's like, "If they stay there, I'm calling the game board," and going on and on and on. He's all mad about it.
I called him on his bluff. I was like, "So call him."
Yeah.
He's like, well.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right. So if you're not going to call them, let's just hunt, whatever. Oh, and for all of you loyal listeners, going back to the Colby Sarver story, this is the same hunt where Ben said that he killed a banded bird.
Yes.
So if you act goofy, or if you act like you know everything, you might get a fake band thrown or a fake band put on a duck, like what Colby did, or someone would just make up a little fib. But go ahead.
So he's all mad, and he's mad about these guys. Levi tells him, "Go ahead, call the game warden." He doesn't do it. And these guys don't shoot a duck the entire day. I mean, we don't even hear them calling. We don't hear them do anything. They didn't do anything the entire day. And so to me, where I come from in Missouri, there are no laws on how close somebody can hunt to you, except for in this one location that I had a blind on, you couldn't hunt within 300 yards of a registered blind, and it had to be occupied. So to me, 800 yards is nothing. That's respectable.
Cushion.
Yeah, so I don't worry about that. I mean, I've had guys set up 100 yards away from me. I didn't like it, but I've hunted well closer to somebody else unintentionally than somebody setting up 800 yards away from me. So I wasn't too bothered by it. Wasn't too irritated by it, but he's upset, and he's talking about calling the game warden. He complained until Levi says, go ahead and call the game warden. And then we didn't hear anything else about it. So we finally end up shooting a mallard, and I go over, I pick it up, and I'm like, it's banded, and he shot the duck. I said, it's banded. And Levi said that the boat was about flipping over because he was, jumping up and down, excited and giddy, thinking he had shot a banded duck because he'd never shot one before.
That man was chubbing. Let me tell you. He was excited.
Which I wasn't doing it intentionally to upset this dude. It was just a joke. I would have done it to Levi. It was just a joke.
Yeah, right.
It didn't,
We might have not been boys, but we're hunting with the boys. You know what I mean? It's just all in good fun.
So we're sitting there, and every time we see birds flying, every single time he's saying, "Be a dumb diver, be a dumb diver. Come on, please, be a dumb diver, be a dumb diver," and that's all we hear for about 2.5 hours straight. Come on, please, be a dumb diver. Well, obviously, there were no dumb divers.
No. I'm pretty sure they're all puddle ducks.
Yeah.
And you still call him with with his mallard call.
Yes.
Mind you.
Yes.
And then we see birds on the other side of the river.
Miles away.
Calling these birds.
Miles away.
Yes. And then me and Ben are both like, hey, it's like there's no chance of them, even if there's corn out around us. Not saying there was, if there's any game wardens listening, I'm just saying, even if there was corn in the spread, they were still not coming. He's like, oh, I've called in ducks farther than that. And I'm like, okay, I don't believe you. I was Ron Burgundy there. I don't believe you.
I mean, and seriously, these ducks, when I'm saying that they were miles away, I mean, like, they were specks. And the only reason
we didn't even know if they were ducks. They could have been cormorants. They could have been seagulls. Like, we don't know.
The only reason we assumed they were ducks was because the amount of them that we were seeing at the time. I mean, it was like above the trees was covered with ducks. And
they're flying south.
Yeah, and he's sitting there screaming. So, and what becomes really funny is that we end up having he's calling. I mean, like blowing his. I mean, I'm surprised his reeds didn't split. He's calling that loud. So we end up getting some geese that come over, and they're like, I mean, they came within 100 yards. So we thought they were going to do it. And so we're calling, and Levi and I are calling. He's really not touching his calls. Levi and I are calling, and they work us, twice. And we're thinking, we're thinking we got one more shot. And so we're thinking they're going to swing us and come in. Well, they do that last swing, and then they go out, and they don't light, or they don't come in. But we put the calls down. We're like, all right, if we get another group of
We
geese,
tried.
if we get another
Yeah.
group of geese, we know we got to change something up. Maybe we call a little less. And then he says, "You guys are calling too much." He said, "You guys can't call. You guys can't call that much. You're hammering the calls." And I'm like thinking, coming from the guy that is over here blowing a lung out at these ducks that are like miles away, telling us that we're calling too much. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, and then so we end up.
Hey, after this episode drops, if he does listen, we're gonna get like our first like 1 star or 0 star on that.
So we only shoot.
Hey, hang on. You went past a part. I thought y'all were about to fight at the very beginning of the hunt. It was just like it wasn't even shooting light yet, and you were messing with your gun or you were getting your call situated.
Gosh, it wasn't even.
And he's like,
light
"Sit the hell down." So I'm like, "Oh."
Yeah. So I didn't even have my gun loaded. Like, didn't even have my gun loaded yet. So we're in about a 16-foot flat bottom john. So I brought this little tripod stool, and I was going to set it up, right off the bow of
it was too tall
of the blind, but it was too tall. So what I did, I just sat down on the bow for a second. I mean, it's still dark, we still have some time before shooting. Like the guys that he got mad about that were 800 yards hadn't even showed up yet. So like I sit down on the bow, and I'm like getting my gun ready, getting my stuff ready, and he goes, "No, down." And I'm like, "Who are you?" I'm like, I mean, it was his boat, so I mean, I guess he had some kind of, I mean, it was his boat. So if he wanted me to do a certain thing within his boat, I mean, that's his right, I guess.
Yeah, but you could have said it nicer.
But he couldn't, like, to talk to me as if I don't know that I can't sit up on the bow of the boat when we're hunting. I mean,
it's not like we had birds working. It's not like we had birds trying to finish and you're sitting there like that'd be a little bit different. Like I'll probably say like, "Ben, sit the fuck down." All right.
Yeah, had we had birds in the decoys before shooting light, I would have understood. Yeah. But I had sat down, to get my stuff situated. "No, down. You can't sit up there."
And then, obviously, a lot of people don't know us personally, and I probably wouldn't have said that to Ben. I probably just said, "Sit still, sit still, sit still," and I mean, and it would have been the end of that. And Ben, you're not dumb. You've duck hunted long before this trip, and you would have just sat there and you know what I mean. It wasn't that big of a deal,
right?
But I think what we're really missing is how we got introduced to this fellow, right? So we
haven't even finished the story about this hunt before we're going off on other angles.
I didn't think there was too much more. I didn't think there was too much more to say about this one.
I mean, you
can finish your thought.
You're not remembering. You're not remembering it right then, because before we even went back to the boat ramp. Remember, we picked the decoys. We picked the decoys up, and so we go and
your lanes.
We go pick the decoys up, and we're gonna go. Well, there's like probably groups of 50, 60 bufflehead or not bufflehead bluebill that we're seeing sit out on the river.
Bluebills.
Yeah, bluebills. Sitting out on the river, and so
everything was a can. Yeah. Everything was a can that day. Yeah. So everything. He shot a canvasback like 2 weeks before. I don't know. I've been lost because he shot a canvasback in the most bizarre spot. I would think there'd be a canvasback.
Yeah.
So after that, everything was a can. Can.
Yeah. So what our plan was to go upriver, cut the engines, and drift down into these rafts of bluebill, maybe get a shot off of one or two of them. Now, what he does, wide open, straight into the bluebill, and then saying, "I don't know why they're jumping up." So in Virginia, you have to be your engine has to be cut and you cannot be
You have to
moving
be
out
off.
of the power. You cannot be moving from the
Yeah.
power of your propulsion
Right.
system at the time that you fire. So that's why we were going to go up.
I'll
and
tell you when to shoot.
Yeah. So we were going to go up and we were going to drift down into them. That's what Levi and I had in mind. He's hauling
Right.
ass to them. Then as soon as they jump up, cutting the engine and thinking that, that was going to suffice. I mean, the birds are up before you're even
They're
150.
dumb divers, dude. What do you?
So before we're even 150 yards to them, the birds are up. So we tell him like, hey man, this isn't working. So he sees, he gets the binoculars out and he's looking and he sees them about 300 yards up the river. He sees a whole raft of birds. He's like, they're canvasbacks. They're canvasbacks. Opens wide open, down the river, cuts it about 100 yards away. They all get up. I don't know why they're not shooting, or I don't know why they're not staying. Well, this one time they didn't get up. So we cut the engine and we start drifting into him. And he's like, remember your lanes. Shoot your lanes, fellas. Remember your lanes. And we're like we're
Yeah, I didn't even know what he meant at first.
Because we're not idiots.
Know what he
you
meant,
know
like,
what I mean? Like
lanes. What? I'm not freaking bowling here. What the hell?
Yeah.
What lanes are you talking about? I thought that was common, and then I started thinking about it. I'm like, oh, it's about like not shooting across from each other. I'm like,
I mean, we're not idiots. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
like we're not. This isn't the first time we've hunted. So
right.
So we do this for I'd say probably 2 hours, and Levi and I are both kind of like, all right, man, like we're done. Well, let's go run some back river creeks, and we're like, no, man, like we're done. So we go and we're running back river creeks right after we told them several times. It's like, we're done, man. Let's go back. So we
we were motoring around so long. I was cold. Like I was like my legs were shaking. And I'm like, and I think my waders at the time they're only like 600 grams. So they're not 3.5 millimeters. So they're not super warm. They're not super thick. My mother-in-law got them for me. They're like 90. They're the cheap pair of Frog Togs. I love the waders. They're good waders, comfortable. They're just not the warmest. And he's like, oh, you being from Kentucky, you should be used to the cold. I'm like, dude, I'm just ready to go. You're the one that killed the duck. Then you pretty much chased everything out of God's country here. And then I was like, just go back to the boat ramp. I mean, I love going. I love being on the water. I love riding around the boat. But it was just, I mean, like I get he was trying to get us a bird. I mean, I get it. But maybe we both, like you said, we both verbally said, man, let's just chalk it up to what it is. Let's.
Yeah. So on the waiter conversation, real quick.
Yeah.
I had some Cabela's breathable waders, and they had those little eyelet holes at the bottom of the boots, so they would take in water, and then whenever you got out of the water would run out, and out of the eyelet holes. And so every time I got in and out of the boat, I would have to get up and drain the water out, and he'd be like, "Poor design for waders." Well, then I think it was towards the end of the hunt, I looked over, and he has the same exact pair of waders, Cabela's brand, same exact pair of waders. And every time I got in and out of the boat and I was sitting there draining them, poor design for waders. You have the same waders.
Didn't something else happen at the boat ramp? Like where he got kind of shitty with us?
So he ended up, we motor around forever. We end up going back to the boat ramp.
Oh, it's not centered.
And so we're loading the boat up, and he's talking to us like we're idiots who don't know how to load a boat. And he's like, make sure that my boat is centered on the trailer. So both Levi and I walk on each side of the boat and put this boat up on the trailer. Well, he gets out and he's like, that's not centered. And so he gets out and he does it himself. And I mean, this boat is hanging off of the trailer when he pulls it out of the. I mean, I'm not even kidding. Like it was as crooked as it could get. Like. And he goes, now that's centered. Like, you've got to be kidding me, man. Like, you've got to be kidding me here. He gets up and he starts looking at his motor. And his motor is leaking something. He's like, I don't know what's going on. He's like, it's leaking. He puts his finger in it and then licks it. He goes, that's oil. Like, I looked at him, and I mean, I had enough. I mean, for the most part, I had been respectful to the guy. At this point, I had
Yeah.
enough, and I said, "Did you just lick that fluid to see if it was engine oil?" He goes, "Well, yeah. How else were you gonna tell?" What the
Black.
fuck do you mean? How else are you gonna tell? Like, are you
We
that
gotta make sure we put the
backwards?
explicit E on this episode.
But I said, how are you telling me that the only way that you could tell that was engine motor was by licking
So
the
I
fluid?
think I know. So again, he's a mechanic. He's a mechanic in the Navy. I'm a mechanic in the Navy. A lot of the mechanics, a lot of the engineers like to brag how they swallowed oil or fuel, and I've done it many of times, not intentionally. It's just when I deal with a half million gallons of fuel every day, and then like 30,000 gallons of lube oil, it happens. You know what I mean? I think that was just, I've done it before. I'm going to try to show out in front of these. I don't understand it. I mean, what else is your engine? It's not a motor
Yeah,
or a surface drive, whatever.
yeah. So like, I looked at him. I was like, "What is wrong
But
with you?" I asked him. I said, "What is wrong with you?" And at this point, I think he had taken exception to us. Because at this point, like we had questioned him on several things. Levi got into an argument earlier about North Dakota with him that we haven't even talked about, but that was ridiculous as well. So, but at this point, like we had several like issues with him on this hunt, and finally, when I questioned him on the motor oil, on the licking and consuming of motor oil, instead of looking at if it was black, maybe running your fingers through it, seeing if it's like a little slick, maybe seeing if it will dry or
smelling,
not. Smelling, if it doesn't dry, it has some kind of oil in it. Anything else than licking it, putting it in your mouth. And I think at that point in time, he took exception to us. I don't know why it took that long. I really don't. But at that point in time, I'm looking for my stuff. My stuff is in his boat, and he's trying to get in his truck and leave. And my stuff is still in his boat. And I'm like, "Hey man, my stuff's still in your boat." So we're getting our stuff out, and he's still like, "Well, I don't know where your stuff is." I'm like, "It's in your boat," and he won't. Like, he keeps trying to pull off. Finally, I get all my stuff, and I can't find my stool. My stool is underneath his boat blind, underneath all of his marsh grass, and he won't help me lift the blind up so that I can get underneath of it and get my stool. And he's sitting there telling me, he's like, "I don't know, man. I don't know where your stool is." I was like, "It's right there. I can see it. I just can't get to it because it's underneath of all your stuff." So at this point, I think he was a little irritated about my questioning of him consuming motor oil. And then we obviously never ended up getting either A, we never ended up getting invited back, and two, we never ended up contacting this individual to hunt with him ever again. But yeah.
well, I don't think we wanted to be invited back. And two, if you were just listened to me in the beginning with, we would never have this problem. Because going back to when we first met this individual, to be, and he said, "Hey, can I sit up here?" And he's like, from us, and we're like, "No, you cannot sit here. You cannot sit up there. You're gonna be right in our shooting lane."
I
And
mean,
he's like,
and
"Well,
no joke.
can we sit
No,
It was
no joke.
close.
When this
I'm
guy
giving.
when he wanted to set up in front of us, I mean, like when we talk about like 40 yards, I mean, we were hunting a little creek. He wanted to set up on the direct opposite bank in front of us against the wind, facing us. So we had him hunt with us instead of us shooting at his face.
I'm being generous with 60 yards. Yeah. Again, I'm being generous with 60 yards. And then he's like, "Well, can we just hunt together?" And then, I have good people. Like, I can judge people pretty well. I'm like, "Nah, Ben, just tell this dude to go somewhere else." Then Ben's like, "No, we should let him hunt with us." I'm like, "All right, whatever." And then that hunt, we were like, "This dude is weird." And then he invites us on his boat, and we're like, "Oh, yeah, cool boat." And then we go on that hunt, and then we're like, "Yeah, no, never again."
Yeah.
I did shoot my first Drake Bufflehead, though.
Yeah.
On that hunt.
You did.
It's a good shot, too. He was buzzing.
So this this whole story, I mean, obviously way longer than I think either one of us intended to talk about something like this, and we're intending to
It was
talk about
funny. It was
preseason
funny.
preseason preparation and plan for the season.
All right.
However, this story is something that Levi and I have talked about, regularly throughout these podcasts. Is
Yes.
not don't be an asshole. I mean, we all enjoy this sport, and none of us want to have our hunt ruined. We all want to make sure we have proper hunting etiquette. I mean, as dumb as that sounds, proper etiquette helps all of us enjoy our hunts. This individual, not that he just didn't have proper, hunting etiquette. And we talked last week or either last podcast or the podcast before, I can't remember. We talked about how to get invited on a hunt or invited back on a hunt, or how to get into a group of hunters. And this is a perfect example of how to not get invited back on a hunt.
Right.
Even though he took us.
There's only two of us. There was only two of us, and we were like, nah, screw this guy.
Yeah.
I'm good with just two people.
Yeah, and so like this is just a perfect example of that.
Right.
Don't be somebody who's gonna one, be a know-it-all. Nobody wants to be hunting with the know-it-all. Don't be somebody who's gonna not take, not be ready to go when everyone else is ready to go. Don't be the one outlier who is going to drag on a hunt, who's going to ruin a hunt, who's going to run hundreds of birds off of a river by trying to go jump shoot them. Just don't be that guy. Because and like I said, this guy was a good guy. Talking to him one-on-one, getting to know him outside of talking waterfowling, this guy was a good guy. But he definitely was somebody who was hard to hunt with. So, but that's just kind of.
So I want to going back to get invited back or getting in a group with the people. Having a camera is a prime. Is a really good way to get invited. Just say, I got a Canon Invixia. Like I really do have I do have that camera. And then I was talking to Dave. I'm like, I was like my foot in the door. I'm like, if you guys need someone to video, if you guys think it's gonna be really good, it's like I got a camera I can bring. He's like, yeah, bring it. I'm like, all right, cool. He's like, and then don't even say anything about a gun, right? Just say I can film. And then they say, well, bring the gun too. And they're like, all right, cool. Then you bring your gun, right? That's a good way to get your foot in the door and get with them. Again, be nice. Try to be as helpful and resourceful as you can. Say, hey, I got these shells, or I got these flock geese decoys that I can bring, whatever, you know what I mean? But I just thought that I would put that little 2 cents in. But yeah, a camera would be a great way because, I mean, especially if guys know it's going to be good and they just never, one, mess with filming, or two, they don't have a camera, or they don't really want to get into filming and editing and all that. That's a perfect way to get in with a group of guys. And it'll get you good footage. Post on YouTube, get big. And going on top of old boy, if we ever make it big time, we should make like hats and stickers of his sayings and sell them.
I wonder if he'd know, man. I wonder if he'd know. I don't know. But anyways, so going.
You watch the Kazoo Kid? Hang on. No. You watch the Kazoo Kid?
No. I've never seen him.
Never mind. I'll send it to you after.
All right. So we go into our initial topic, preseason preparation. That's kind of where we'll start. After that long story, I'm not sure if we'll end up getting to plans for the for the season. That might end up being its own episode on its own. But
part 2.
Yeah. Preseason preparation. So one big thing, something that I always do, and I actually ended up starting a little bit late this year, is I get all my stuff out, I get all my gear out, and I look at what I've got, and I think about what I'm going to do this season. Think about areas that I'm thinking about hunting. You know, what my future, what my plans are for the season. How many guys I've got to go with. What you know do I mean this year I have my boat. Last year I had my boat. Other years I didn't have a boat. What I needed, what would make my life easier. Not just necessarily with decoys or anything like that. What would make my life easier as far as like packing in decoys or setting up decoys, picking up decoys, organizing my stuff. Um, so I do that every year, and I look at and I think about the difficulties that I had in the previous season and how am I gonna remedy those difficulties. So this year I got all my stuff out, and I looked at all my stuff, and I remembered last year my boat blind it kept falling apart. Not necessarily falling apart, but it's like pieces kept my connectors kept breaking on my conduit tubing that I built it out of. So this year I've rebuilt my boat blind. So that was a big part of my preseason preparation to make sure that my blind was going to hold up throughout the season, because last year it didn't. So remember what made it harder. So I clean my decoys. I get them out. I hose them down. I hose them down a couple of times, because what ends up happening if you just hose them down once, that dirt just kind of turns into mud. Once they get them wet, and then you kind of go away, come back, pack them up, put them back in the bag, and then they're just muddy now. So you clean them a couple of times. You can even get kind of like a sponge and or a rag and wipe them off with some water. So make sure my decoys look good. Make sure I always test my waders again. I put them in the water. I let them get wet. I put them in there and I pull them out. I put them in the tub, pull them out, and I see if the insides got wet. That's always a good way to do it, or a good thing to do. And then I obviously make sure my gun's ready. I start cleaning my gun a couple of months before, just because I know that it's sat for a couple of months, and I don't want my gun to want to get some buildup, not be as lubricated, not be dirty, have some dust and all that stuff. So I make sure my gun is as good as it's going to get at the beginning of the year. But yeah, that's just a couple of things. There's a lot of things that go into it, but the biggest thing to me is my decoy preparation.
Yeah. Again, if go off a little bit off subject, but kind of in line with what you're saying too, especially with the boat thing. If you have a friend that has a boat or just got a boat, don't be that guy that only hits him up when they say, "Hey, when we're going fishing or when we're going scouting." Don't be that guy, man. It's really annoying, and it makes people not want to take you. So, kind of going off Mikhail said last week to the landowner, hit them up every now and again, whether it's a holiday or see if they want to go get something to eat. College football's coming back, thank God. See if they want to come over and watch the game, whatever. Yeah, it's really annoying that if you have a spot or if you've done your networking and then people will try to like mooch off you, you know what I mean? And then that's the only time you hear from them. But yeah, kind of like what Ben was going off of. He actually he has his boat in storage, or he did over or during the summertime, which is weird because you think he'd be actually using it. But he went to go check on his trailer or his boat, and the neck of the trailer was bent. So that's another thing that he either gonna have to fix or replace, whatever. So yeah, again, I just got a boat too, so keep up the maintenance on your boat, your engine. I mean, normal people use it during the summer. Ben's just weird, I guess. Only uses it during the winter, which is kind of ass backwards. Yeah, I mean, Ben had a really good point too. Clean your shotguns. Please clean your shotguns. I normally clean mine, especially if I'm hunting over saltwater. I usually clean mine after every hunt. I'll clean the barrel, inside the barrel, and then I'll just rig oil it. I mean, now I don't because I got it dipped. But I mean, I used to I rig oil the outside too on like my rifles. But yeah, rig oil it. Rig oil is one of the best things you can use, and it's cost like $6, and it'll last you like 3 years. It'll last you a long
Yeah.
time. I promise you. All you gotta do is get like a t-shirt, a little t-shirt, like a Hanes t-shirt, cut off, use like the arm sleeve, and just use that. I mean, I learned that when I was like 8 years old because I used to get whipped by my grandfather because I would touch the barrel of guns and I'd get hit. I get spanked. He said, "Don't do that." And I was like, "Why?" He's like, "The oils on your hands will rust that gun over time." And I have a couple of his guns now, and they look brand new from when he had them, when he first bought them. He took very
Yep.
good care of his guns. He took very good care of everything he had. So if no matter what brand you buy, if you take care of it, it'll take care of you. Except for new 870s, those things are garbage. You don't want to buy those. All right.
Yeah. So like Levi
Now
said,
we're really gonna get bad reviews. I talk bad about 870s.
so yeah. So like, I mean, with Levi, he was talking about, and a big thing that I think is important, talking about, not just contacting people during duck season. I'm guilty. I'm guilty of that just because I'm not a people person. Like I'm not somebody who likes to do a whole lot of stuff outside of my house. Come regular time of the year. Um, you know, I like to have my own time to sit in my house. I'm not somebody who regularly goes over to people's house for dinner. I don't know. My wife and I were homebodies, but I'm guilty of only contacting people to hunt with during hunting season. But I don't do it because I don't want to be friends with them. I do it just because that's just the way I just enjoy to be a homebody. But um, I understand that when I do that and I reach out to somebody and I say, hey, you know, let's go hunt, and I haven't talked to them since February, they're gonna be like, all right, man, like I haven't talked to you in months. Why are you reaching out? Why are you reaching out now to go hunt? Why didn't you reach
Yeah.
out to go scouting? Why didn't you reach out to go fishing? Why didn't you? So I'm guilty of that. I do that. Um, but I also understand the way that looks to somebody else. Levi's the
All right.
exception. So
Well,
I
I talked to you offline about my situation a couple of days ago, and it's different if it's blatant, and then if you know what I mean. If I think most people can differentiate that because what do you have to do before you go and if a boy is hitting you up about going scouting and then you make these excuses and it's time to hunt and you're saying what time do we meet in the morning, don't be surprised if A, the person doesn't text you back, or two, he said blind's full, boat's full. It'd be
right.
obviously it's case by case scenario. Like if say, hey, my wife's in the hospital, that's different, or whatever. I mean,
Right.
it's a lot of it's case by case, cases. But if you're just making just bullshit excuses, don't expect to get a spot in the blind.
Yeah.
Whenever if someone else went with that guy that has a boat, or the guy that knows the landowner, kind of just SOL. Go
Yeah.
scout on your own.
Without a doubt. And so scouting's a huge part of it. I mean, you should be scouting, all the way through, the spring and the summer. I this year definitely got behind the curve. I didn't do any fishing this year, so I didn't get
Yeah.
out on the water enough to be able to to do my scouting, just looking for spots that are available to hunt. But I mean, at that point in time, I mean, the chances of you're not going to find birds. You're not going to find a spot you're not going to find a spot that's going to actually, whether or not the birds are there in the spring and early summer. But come, August, September, you can still be out fishing and you can still find, you can start finding some birds, some teal, and then some early geese. But do that scouting. Go out with people. Go fishing.
It still looks this looks like good duck habitat.
Yeah, and do your research on what waterfowl want in your area. It's different everywhere. So in Missouri, when I was hunting Missouri, I was always looking for millet, corn, barley, those kind of that kind of vegetation. If I could find millet or I could find corn, then I knew that I could kill ducks, regardless of what the time of the year I was out. If I could find millet and I could find corn, because I was hunting public land. So if I could find those two things on my public land, I learned that I could find ducks there. So know your area and know what you're looking for. And then you can use that to your advantage. That way, you can use a whole summer to find spots to hunt. And that's important because, I mean, here in Virginia, I've done my research on what ducks look for, but I haven't witnessed it yet. Not because I haven't put in the time, but it takes a little while. So it took me in Missouri, and that's kind of something you run into with being military, is if you don't go to a new area and get in with some people who kind of know the area, it takes you a little bit to learn it yourself. So it took me 2 years in Missouri to find what I was looking for and to kind of find my own, the way I like to hunt and what matched up with what I was looking for. In Virginia, I'm still in a learning curve and I'll get there. And so we're going to actually have on our next episode, we're going to have my good buddy Tyler Gale come on. And he did all this stuff too. His wife is in the Air Force, or was in the Air Force. And so they went to Kansas. He did the same thing. He had a learning curve. Took him some time to kind of get there. He went to San Antonio. Huge learning curve in San Antonio, and he figured it out down there too. So when you're traveling as a hunter, then you're going to an area and you're trying to find where you're gonna hunt for the next couple of years. It might take some time, and so that's something that goes into preseason preparation altogether. But I know not everybody listening to this is necessarily military or military affiliated, but I know that you still have to do some kind of preseason preparation that's going to help you find spots for your season.
So, man, I still see, even though you're not military or military affiliated, like you said, people still move. I mean, I've seen a lot of posts down here saying I just moved here, whatever, and I'm looking for spots. And they're not looking, maybe they're looking for pins, but I think they're really just looking for the direction where they need to go. So, I mean, that still applies to those people. And another big thing, too, is if you're scouting a spot, especially during the season, right? This really applies when the season comes in. You want to throw out, so the decoys you put out want to represent what birds you actually saw the day prior or the 2 days prior.
Yep.
If you can kind of replicate what you saw there, probably going to be a higher success rate. They're going to see what they like. It looks, like you said, it looks normal. Like earlier when we were talking about early geese season, it looks normal. They could be local birds. They could be birds that got pushed down and just haven't migrated south. You know what I mean? They're just hanging out. So it looks normal. Probably going to have a higher success rate.
Yeah, man.
So if you're seeing mallards and gadwalls and you're throwing out divers, they're going to be like, well, that's weird. I don't know about all that. So try to replicate what you see.
But there's people. The thing is, there's people who do that, man. So, like like in Missouri, I would throw out. I would have the majority of my decoys be mallards. I'd say 2/3 of my decoys would be mallards, and then I would make up
Yes, that's
the
Missouri.
rest. Yeah, and so I would make up the rest with maybe a pair pintail here, couple of pintail, couple of widgeon, couple, and then maybe a dozen teal. Something that I would expect to see that day. Out here, I went and I bought a bunch of black duck decoys. I went and I bought a bunch of blue bufflehead decoys, and then I've got some mallard and some teal stuff that I'm expecting to see out here. So in your preseason preparation, look at what your waterfowl's spread's going to look like. That's a big thing. Like you said, if it doesn't look natural, if it doesn't reflect the amount of birds or the type of birds in the area, your chances go down. Now, birds, obviously, there's people out there that say birds will decoy to ducks. Ducks will decoy to ducks no matter what they are. All right. I've killed bluebill over an all puddle duck spread before. I've killed bufflehead over an all puddle duck spread before. You can kill mallards over an all diver duck spread. Yeah, you can do that. But you've also got to realize that your whole season isn't just going to be.
That's not our point, though.
No. But you over a whole season, all your hunts are not going to be, all divers. All your hunts are not going to be all puddle ducks. At the end of that year, you're going to have ducks that have been hanging out in your area, no matter where you are, no matter where you're at in the flyway. At some point in your season, you're going to have birds that have been there for a long time. And when they start recognizing that something's not right, you're going to have trouble getting them to decoy. So you've got to think about that. You can think like, hey, at the beginning of the year, I can get away with some things, but later in the year when I'm hunting weary birds, I might not be able to get away with stuff. I have to make sure my stuff's looking good. Like early season, I always hunt. I mean, people talk about having teal decoys. I think teal decoys are a little overrated. I hunt, during teal season, I use all mallard hens. Everything you're going to see during teal season is going to be dark. Everything. Maybe not everything. You might see some things that might have a little bit of color, but early season, most things are going to be dark, especially blue-winged teal. Blue-winged teal. I mean, I've only heard of one time where a blue-winged teal has been shot, somewhere, in the middle states to the north that has been fully plumed in the early season. I've only heard of it once. So you got to think, everything's going to be that brownish color. So I throw all mallard hen decoys, especially during teal season, because they're all brown anyways. So to me, all they're going to look like is some oversized blue-winged teal, which is going to give me a little bit more visibility. And then I run, a couple of mojos. So I know early season, those are the decoys I've got to have ready. And then I go into, late season, big duck season, first couple weeks of big duck season, you can still get away with running the majority of mallard hen decoys. And then you can go into, your colored decoys, I phase them in. So I use all of my decoys throughout a whole season. I have, I have probably 10 to 12 dozen decoys. I haven't counted them in a while, but I have probably 10 to 12 dozen decoys. And I cycle all of those decoys out through the year. I don't have one spread that I use for the whole season. So think about at what point in time you're gonna use what, and then have it you don't have to have on this date I'm gonna change my decoys to this, but based off of what you're seeing with the migration. I mean, if you're a regular hunter, if you're listening to this podcast every week, you're a regular hunter. You know what I mean? Nobody's gonna sit there. I want to talk about waterfowl, and when I hunt, once every 2 years. If you're listening to this podcast, you're a regular hunter. So think about when you're hunting, you're going to see the migration. You're going to see what you're starting to see. If you're starting to see some widgeon show up in your area, put some widgeon decoys out. If you're seeing some pintail decoys, put some pintail decoys out, and have a group of guys you can kind of talk about so they can tell you what they're seeing at the same time. And I'm not saying you have guys who are going to tell you exactly what they're seeing. I'm not saying you're having guys that are telling you where they're seeing it. Just kind of what's around.
Right. And another tool to use, we've talked about it before, the Ducks Unlimited app. I mean, I've seen guys where they you can track the migration there. Guys will post their location on the map and say, we've been seeing mallards. There's a guy that posted in the public pursuit waterfowl page saying he lived up in New York, saying that teal are already moving south because New York is getting major cold fronts already. So, use your resources. Be smart. Think outside the box a little bit. Because, again, the information is there. You just got to spend a little time, dig a little bit, and find that one guy, that one local guy that we've talked about that before. Find that one local guy that is helpful. Obviously, he's not going to tell you everything, and you shouldn't expect that. I don't think if you're a true sportsman, you wouldn't want that at the same time, because you wouldn't feel as accomplished. Kind of like what David was saying. He feels a lot more accomplished killing 120-inch deer on public land versus 150 on private. You'd feel a lot more accomplished if they give you a little nudge, right, in the right direction, and then you kind of took it and ran with it. And I've done it before. Killing mallards, doing it everything my way is so rewarding. It's so rewarding, and I and I miss it. I miss the abundance of birds, and I like the challenge here on the East Coast. But at the same time, going back to the hunter's satisfaction, it kind of sucks. I told you last year whenever duck season was done, I'm like, man, I think I'm just going to deer hunt next year. And then, I kind of knew deep down that wasn't going to happen, But I was just burnt out, man. I was just burnt out, and I think Mikhail said it last week, and we're spoiled coming from the Mississippi Flyway. We were spoiled.
Oh my gosh!
Coming out to the Flyway like the East Coast,
without a doubt.
We're like, I have a buddy here he started duck hunting here, mind you, but he always killed his wood ducks, right? And he's like, I always like to kill a mallard. I'm like, dude, my first bird was a mallard. The first time I went duck hunting and I killed a bird, it was a mallard duck.
Yeah.
And I killed I killed 3 or 4 of them that day. And that's pretty much all we killed was mallard, was greenheads. All we killed was greenheads. It was the youth trip, and all we killed was greenheads. I don't think I've done that since as an adult.
No, man, and that's what's crazy is when you look at where we come from, the Mississippi Flyway, versus versus the East Coast, or even the South. We'll just say the South in general, because the South doesn't get the same amount of big ducks that Illinois, Kentucky, that kind of area does. So we'll just lump the South into this, because I know there are some southern states that are way way better. Texas, Louisiana, parts of Mississippi that are way better.
Kentucky's part of the South. Thank you, sir.
We'll say deep South. We'll go deep South just to make you feel better.
Yeah, sounds good.
But there's parts of the southern, very southern states, to make Levi happy, that have that they kill a lot of teal, a lot of pintail, a lot of widgeon, a lot of divers, and that's or a lot of wood ducks. Is like Levi said, there's people down in South Carolina who all they kill is wood ducks. And so I've heard of guys, rolling up with a boat, to a gas station in some of those southern states, and somebody saying, how'd you do? Oh, we killed them. We smoked them, guys. And they're like, oh yeah, what'd you get? And we limited out on wood ducks. 2 guys, you guys shot 6 ducks, and that's smoking them. That's kicking their ass. To me, that's an okay day.
Well, I think the limit for wood ducks is 3.
Yeah.
Oh, you said 6, didn't you? You said 6.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay,
sorry. I think it meant 6 per.
That Kentucky education.
That Kentucky math. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean,
Sorry. Yeah, you're
so
right. You're right.
so
For
I
once.
understand. So I understand.
But I mean, if there's two of you and you kill 6 wood ducks, that's a good day. I mean, we're not.
Like,
Ben's not knocking you if you kill 6 wood ducks.
not
He's
at
not
all.
knocking you.
Not at all.
But yeah, it's just he's
I'm comparing it
comparing
to the
what we're
Mississippi
used
Flyway.
to. Right. Yes. Exactly.
Yeah. So
And
that's just the learning curve
and
that I think I'm in now in Virginia. You
yeah,
know,
yeah,
and I
for sure.
think I'm
Same
I'm
here.
expecting I'm expecting to go out and kill, between two guys at a minimum 8 ducks. You know, and that's if all you shoot is mallards.
Well,
At
that'd
a
be 4. Be 4 mallards now.
in Virginia, yeah, that's 4 ducks.
Yeah.
You go and shoot a mallard.
Yeah.
You go shoot a limit of mallards here in Virginia. You've got 4 ducks. That
Right.
to me, that's ridiculous. So like
And the year
that's
2020 is absolutely um, below standards, below the bar.
yeah.
I mean, it's. I mean, if you look at the numbers, David brought up a really good point, and I never thought about it that way before. But he's talking about during the Great Depression about how everyone was just getting food, how they can, when they can, right? So if you're shooting a deer in April or May or June, you were killing that deer, you were taking it home and feeding the family. And the number, I mean, if you can look at the numbers if you don't believe me, but I mean, the numbers were very low. I mean, turkeys were looking at going extinct. Pronghorn was very low. I mean, there was so many animals that are on the verge of extinction, and over the years have made a very strong comeback. And now we're in 2020, and they cut the limit of mallards in half
Yeah.
from 4 to 2.
Yeah.
Because
But it's
I'm
crazy. So
at,
I understand a portion of it. I don't want to say that I'm ignorant to the purpose of it, because I understand the Atlantic Flyway is the lowest producing
no,
flyway
and I get that.
out of all of them.
I
And
understand that. Yes.
so and I mean, we've hammered this point in about every one of our podcasts, about how the Atlantic Flyway is a lesser flyway, and I get it, but I think, and to kind of bring it back to what we're intending to talk about here with preseason preparation, set your expectations to a point that you're not going to be like, as Levi said last year, I'm not going to hunt next year. Because Levi, coming from Kentucky, going to Virginia and having a learning curve from Kentucky to Virginia, completely different, not the same at all. Coming from Missouri to Virginia, completely different, not the same at all. But then Levi gets hit with another whammy going from Virginia to South Carolina, not the same at all.
Yeah.
And then he says, I'm not hunting next year. So know where you're at, know your bird population, and I did this, both of us did this. I went to Virginia. I didn't temper my expectations. I come out here and I'm like, holy shit, this sucks.
Yeah.
I mean, and is the duck hunting in Virginia really that bad? No, it's not. It's still duck hunting. You still have to do the same things that you're going to do everywhere else. You still have to go find the birds. You still have to put in the work. You still have to put in the time. It's just different.
Right.
You have to learn it. Same thing in South Carolina. You just have to temper your expectations on what the birds are, what the bird population is, what other hunters do, and understand that you're not going to go out there and get the same production that you would in the Mississippi Flyway. You're not going to get the same production you would as watching, the grind waterfowl or Higdon waterfowl on YouTube. So when it coming down to the topic of this episode in preseason preparation, know and understand your area and know and understand what you're going to expect to get. I'm not saying that you have to have a goal and say, I'm going to shoot 150 ducks alone this year, because that's ridiculous no matter where you are. I mean, it can be done. People do it. I'm not going to say you can't do it. People do.
Yeah.
But, I'm not saying you have to put a goal out there, but just understand that you're not going to limit every time. No matter what flyway you're in, you're not going to limit every time.
No, absolutely not.
But if you're,
especially in a new when we were hunting together, it was new for both of us. We'd be happy if we killed 2 ducks. If we killed one apiece, or if one of us killed one, we were happy. Like, we weren't skunked. This was a good day. You know what I mean? That's kind of going back to, like you're saying, set your expectations. Let's be honest, we all should just be appreciative to be out there and enjoying the morning. And whatever we kill is just bonus, right? Whether it's, like Mikkel said, he shot into a raft of coots, or if it's buffalo heads or bluebills, whatever. If you're killing something, whether it's you killed 100 times or if you killed it for the first time, just be grateful. You're outside in the outdoors doing what you love. And like what you were saying, Ben, like the first episode is just you're doing it with who you love or who you want to be with, and just enjoying and just living in the moment. And I think that's kind of what a lot of people kind of forget, is that everyone's so. I mean, I'm guilty of it too. I'm not gonna lie. Like, everyone's so guilty of chasing that limit of a 3, 4, 5-man limit, whatever, and they just kind of get lost in just kind of just being there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, I love, like you said, again, if I'm going fishing or hunting, if I'm on the water, I'm enjoying myself. If I get to take my boat out and go catch a pound bass and I'm out there for 2 hours, cool. If it's nice weather, and it's a nice morning or evening, whatever, I'm enjoying myself. I'm not at work. That's, especially when I was on the boat, that was what I related everything to. It's just like, I'm not at work. I don't have to deal with that bullshit. I'm cool, man. I don't care what happens. I'm just happy to be here. Again, exactly what Matt said. I'm happy I'm sharing this with you. Whatever.
Yeah.
You don't kill anything.
Yeah.
Sucks.
And so
Oh,
I
well,
think
not
it
at work.
changes. So I think it changes as I've gotten older. When I was a teenager, even 23.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
I'd say from my teenage years to about 23 years old, I was like, I've got to get out there and I've got to kill as many ducks as I'm going to kill. And I mean, don't get me wrong. I've still got that drive. That drive is not gone. Like that is not gone. But aspects of my life have caused me to kind of slow things down, change things a little bit. And so I think that those aspects of my life have kind of made me more appreciative of the opportunities that I get, rather than going. I still look back on some of my best hunts, my most memorable hunts, and I still can't believe that I had those experiences, I had those things happen. But now I look at it and I'm like, if I can just get out on the water, if I can just go and enjoy the nature, if I can just go and see some waterfowl, I have a lot more of a respect for the waterfowl themselves, for the beauty of the waterfowl, for the fun of the chase, and doing it myself, doing it the way that I want to do it, and with the people I want to do it with. That's what's more important to me now, than saying, if I don't shoot a limit, I'm going to go home, pissed off, and, I'm not going to enjoy the rest of my day because I didn't limit out. Because I've been there and I've done that.
Yeah.
But I'm not like, as I've gotten older, I've grown to love the experience a lot more than just, I have to shoot a limit. And like I said, like I've already said before, don't get me wrong, that is still there. I've just learned how to cope with it and enjoy it and slow down a lot more.
And kind of going off what you said, man, it's just, I like being here in South Carolina. It's very nice. But at the same time, it's just, like we've talked about it before, the hunting, whether it's deer or turkey or duck or quail, whatever you're in, squirrel, whatever, it's just not up to what it is in the Midwestern states like Illinois, like Missouri, Kansas, Kentucky, even Tennessee. Tennessee has very good population in wildlife. And when people say, "Why don't you just get a job there? You're already there. You're already established." I don't. The hunting sucks, and that's how much hunting means to me. And like I've told my wife many of times, even before we were married, hunting is my first love. I was in the deer stand the first time when I was 2 years old. I mean, my dad, he put me in a life jacket and then pulled me up the deer stand like I was his bow or his backpack. Like I was 2 years old.
You were
I mean,
expendable.
yeah, exactly right. You just made another one, I guess. But I mean, it's literally in my blood, and it's just, well, another good point too is just when I was in the Navy, or I still am, but like when I was on the boat in Virginia, I was like, oh, I haven't deer hunted in like 2 years. I haven't duck hunted in like 3 or 5 years. I'm I'm like, I was like, how? I can't go 4 months. I'm like, man, I wish I was in a deer stand right now. Or man, I wish I was in a layout blind right now. Or I wish I was calling in a tom. Like I can't go a whole calendar year of not chasing anything. So that's another big reason why when I do get out, I am still in the Navy. I just had a blonde moment. When I do get out, that's why I do want to move back to the Midwest, Kentucky, Tennessee area because it's so rich in wildlife. I mean, I see guys in Indiana and Kentucky saying, "Oh man, we don't get any ducks." I'm like, man, if you only knew, if you only knew what a lot of people on this side go through. We've talked about it before when we were in Virginia. We're like, I don't think I'd ever get a mallard mounted. It had to be, or really special, like if it was your dog's last retrieve or something like that. It'd have to be pretty. I'm not gonna shoot them out like, oh, let's go on the wall. You know what I mean? But a lot of them boys down here do. Like a lot of guys I've seen post like on South, like SC ducks or SC waterfowl, whatever. Like, oh, I've been chasing for a mallard for 12 years, 10 years. I'm like, what? It's just different walks of life. It's different struggles. And I mean, me and my dad we're already talking about duck season when I get out in over a year. I bought that boat. I'm like, man, we're gonna have the boat. It's gonna be painted. That we're gonna get on the river. We're gonna chase birds. And it's like we're actually gonna be duck hunting again. That's like my thought process, right? We're actually gonna be duck hunting again. But I mean, just because it's the flyway, it's the amount of birds. We're gonna be right next to Illinois. I mean,
Yeah.
Illinois. So, and the Mississippi itself. I mean, I know a lot of them diver birds come from the Great Lakes, and they follow the Mississippi down.
Yep.
And they go, they kind of go off to Kentucky Lake, Lake Barkley, Reelfoot Lake. I mean, they branch out to them big open. And I mean, I'm really passionate about, and that's another big reason why I'm getting out of the military, so I can go back and actually get back to like real hunting because it sucks, man. I mean, even with deer hunting, I get out there and everything's pines. I mean, everything I've hunted is hardwoods with like pine trees mixed in with it, and that's really good. That's what the combination you want. You want mainly hardwoods with a little bit of pines mixed in, and it's just like I'd go out. I almost quit deer hunting. I was not having fun, and I couldn't really scout out because I was working so much. It was over like an hour and a half away, one way, and it was just I wasn't really seeing any deer. I was like, man, this just isn't fun. And I get on, I jump from club to club, and it's just kill a couple does. I'm just the doe commander, I guess.
Yeah, so that's just what you run into. Being a military, traveling, live in different places every couple of years. You're not there long enough to really get to learn the area. You're not there long enough to learn the ins and the outs of everything that comes with the area that you're in. So you've really got to understand that there is people that have lived there for, 20, 30, 40, 50 years. They know everything there is to know about the area that you're in. So those people, they will kill ducks. They will kill deer. They'll find big deer. They will find good turkey hunting. They'll find the areas that are good. And I'm not saying it takes 20, 30, 40, 50 years to figure it out. I'm just saying that it takes more than just, 3, 4 years in an area as a military person with a family and not having the time to always be out there, always learning new areas, always exploring new areas. That's what you run into with like Levi and I. I was in Missouri for 6 years. It took me, about 3 years to really figure out where I needed to be. It took me that long to hone in the ins and the outs of where I was at. Now, the difference is that I had grown up 3.5 hours away from Missouri. So I already knew kind of what I was looking for. I already knew, I already knew the way the Midwest was. But what I didn't know was the people. I didn't know a lot of the different laws, some blind laws. I knew there were good hunting areas, but I didn't know how to get onto them because you had to have certain applications and have certain rights. And the state didn't put that information out there. You had to get to know somebody else who had done it before that would give you that information. So that's something that you run into. And like I said, it took me 3 years to figure that out. But out here, I come out here, I don't have a boat. That's an issue that I have right off the bat, because what I'm looking for was a place that I could just walk into, a marsh that I could throw some decoys in a sled, throw my blind bag, throw my gun, and go out there and set up in some reeds and shoot ducks. Now, that's not like, you can't do that here. I'm not saying there aren't spots. You can find some spots. You can find some private land that's like that. And there's a couple of WMAs that have that. But you better believe everybody and their mother is going to be out there hunting it. In Missouri, there's so many of those places that you can drive, 2 hours, driving it within a 2-hour radius and find 10, 15 places that are like that. Here, there's 2 that I know of. Everywhere else, you've got to get out on the boat. You've got to go find the spots that nobody else is hunting. You've got to make sure you're further than 500 yards away from a blind. You've got to learn the ins and the outs of it. This will be my 3rd season here. I feel like this year I have some stuff figured out. I feel like this year, I've got the groundworks figured out to where I can go out and I can have a good season. I feel like it took me 2 years to get to that point. Again, Missouri, it took me 2 years to get to that point. Now, I also know that, like I said before, there's people who have been here for 40 or 50 years, and they know everything about this area. And they do kill ducks. They do kill wildlife, the wildlife that they're chasing and the wildlife that they're looking for. In South Carolina, we talked to the Townsend brothers. They do kill ducks. They do kill stuff that they're looking for in South Carolina. Colby kills stuff that he's looking for in South Carolina. Right. You know what I mean? But they've lived there their entire lives. They've put the time in. They've worked the networking to be able to figure it out. Myself and Levi, we've got to go there and we've got to build it from the ground up. So that's something that we run into. And it's something that we've really got to figure out being military. It's just a different world. But it's something that,
that I wouldn't
change for anything, because I wouldn't change it for anything, because now I've got to hunt Illinois, I've got to hunt Missouri, and I've got to hunt Virginia.
Right.
And I'm going to get to hunt other states within the country, so that, on the military's dime, on the government's dime. And so that's something that I look forward to, being military. You said you're going to get out and go back to Kentucky and kill, so that you can have hunting, there. I'm looking forward to me, I'm taking a couple year, in my opinion, I'm taking a couple year trips to these other locations, a couple year hunting trips to these other locations. That's the way I look at it. And I love that. And I'm excited for it. Even if it is somewhere that's not as good, I get to go there and I get to experience it and I get to learn it. And so that's something that's just awesome to me. But it does suck. It sucks to be in a learning curve.
Yeah. So when you said some guys have hunted 30, 40, 50 years, I immediately thought of Bane. They were born in it.
I'm not a superhero. You're a superhero nerd, man.
No, I'm not. It's just a meme.
Oh man. But no,
like, I am grateful for like experiences here. I mean, like whether it's going from meeting you or just being like going through the struggle of of the East Coast. I definitely have an appreciation now when I do go back. I'm like, oh man, we only killed like 4 mallards today. You know what I mean? Like I definitely think back to these days. I'm like, man, I guess it could be worse. You know what I mean? But I mean, but no, I mean, like you said, like I've enjoyed it, hunting new places, seeing. I mean, as much as I hate deer hunting pines, it's gonna be a little bit part of me that is gonna miss it. I'll probably set up a stand in some like a little pine patch when if I find one, whatever. But at the end of the day, I mean, I want my daughter to grow up, and I'm not saying again. It's just me personally. Again, if I stayed here 10 years, whatever, I'm sure I'd figure it out and I'd kill birds, whatever. But time with hunting, I want her to enjoy it. I like to get my wife into hunting. And the place we're looking at going to live, I mean, you can buy a house in 50 acres for cheap as 150, 200,000. And at the end of the day, that's what I want. That's always been my dream. I've listened to my dad talk about that, about the farm his grandmother, my great grandmother had where he grew up hunting, where he shot his first doe, his first deer with a bow, with a long bow, and he spined her.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I grew up listening to these stories, and I saw the passion that I own property. I own my own, so we can hunt. We can, turkeys, whatever, X, Y, blah, blah, blah. And that really rubbed off on me. And now that's my end goal. You know what I mean? I want to have in a soybean field, watching 130, letting 100 by, and having a little duck hole where I plant corn and flood it, and then we kill greenheads all year. You know what I mean? I want that. And that's where I feel like I can get it the easiest. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that's really like my big motivation behind it. So, I mean, a lot of guys like being out here. And I mean, a lot of times too is that people just don't really move up and move away from their hometowns.
Yeah,
which is fine.
Now, you can find it. You know what I mean? You can find good hunting.
Yeah, for sure.
You know what I mean? Like it's just
anywhere you are,
anywhere. But you can go back to a place that and get into good hunting right away, and not have to go through another learning curve. And that's a big thing. But I mean, I think this kind of takes us a little bit into like what we plan throughout the season. You know what I mean? Like what we plan for. Like,
absolutely.
So like when I go into a year, I plan. I have a couple of ideas on what my good early season is going to be, what my middle season is going to be, what my late season is going to be. I always know what's going to be good for those areas, as long as I know the area. And I think this goes along the lines of what we're talking about. If you know the area, if you know where you are, if you understand the way that the birds migrate and the way the birds work in your area, then and even with deer, even with a turkey, if you know the way it works at different stages of the season, then you can plan for those different parts. So early season, I know for a teal hunt, I don't have to be somewhere that's going to need a crazy amount of cover. I know my cover isn't as important as my water movement with teal hunting. So like my early season, my teal season, I'm just finding birds. You know what I mean? I'm just going somewhere
Right.
where the birds are going to be, something that's going to have some marsh cover, that's going to have some grass growing up, that's going to be kind of a more secluded area. If I'm going to go like, early season, the first couple of weeks of season, I just want to, I honestly, my first probably 2 or 3 hunts, I'm going to go based off what my scouting tells me. But if my scouting doesn't tell me a whole lot, I'm just going to go somewhere that I can learn, that I can see the way they work. My first couple of hunts of the year, I'm not expecting to do really, really good. I'm expecting to
Right.
see the birds, see how they work, see what's going on, and then learn on it and base my next steps off of that. If my scouting didn't turn out the way that I wanted it to, but I mean,
See
it
where
goes
they're
the
coming
same.
from. That's another big.
Exactly. It goes the
Yeah.
same way with deer and turkey and everything that you're saying. You want to move. You're
Yep.
talking about moving somewhere that work kind of gets done for you throughout the experiences that you have within that
Right.
area.
Yeah. For
So
sure.
I won't like I've already said, I have 2 years here. I don't have the amount of seasons in this area, to be able to tell you, what birds do at certain points within the year, because I've only seen 2 of them. And I hunted 2 completely different areas during those 2 time frames. So like they didn't correlate. They don't tell me what's going on within the year. I have to talk to the people in the area. Like there was one year, the first year hunting, you and I, we got back to the boat ramp.
Yeah.
We're in the canoe. We got back to the boat ramp. It was the last day of the season, and we run up to these guys who were docking, who were loading their boat up, and we sat there and we talked to them probably 30 minutes talking about the season, and they told us that was the worst season that they had seen in 30 years. They had been hunting there
Yeah.
for 30 years, and that was the worst season they had had for 30
And they had a
years.
private blind too.
Yeah. So like it just takes those experiences to be able to plan that stuff out. But this year, like I've already said, I've kind of learned a little bit. I've got some quota hunts that I've put in for, that I've got approved for early season, and then Virginia has an early duck season that's separate from teal season in the beginning of October. So I'm excited about that because I got those quota hunts, and if they're anything like the controlled hunts in Missouri, it's going to be amazing. But I also, again, temper my expectations because I've never done these quota hunts. I know they're managed properties, and I know that those managed properties are set up to produce waterfowl. So I'm excited about that, and then I'm gonna see how those go. And I've put in for quite a few more quota hunts that won't come out towards later in the month. And then I've also got out on some rivers. I've done a lot of Google Map scouting this year that I've kind of looked at some places that I know are public, that I know I can get to, that I know my boat should be able to handle. I've talked to a lot of people within the area, and I've kind of grown to understand a little bit more. And I think I'm going to be able to get out and have a pretty good year. And I'm really excited for what's kind of in store this year. It's going to be different. But I also understand that my first 2 years were not the way I expected them to go. So a big thing for me is I don't like getting out on rivers by myself. So I have a couple of guys that I've gotten to kind of come into a group, and I'm hoping that we can kind of share hunts with each other. And there aren't a whole lot of times where I feel uncomfortable getting out by myself. So I'm really excited about that. I'm really excited about having a group of hunters to get in with. I'm really excited about, let me rephrase that. I've had groups of hunters before. That's how Levi and I met. And I had a group of hunters last year. I'm really excited about having a group of hunters who are willing to put in the work that I want to put in
Right.
to find waterfowl. So I have a high expectation when finding a hunt partner, because I don't, like we've talked about hunting etiquette. I don't want to put in all the work and then give someone else the reward when they put in not very much work. And this year,
And then they shoot a blank. So
This year, I have people who are willing to put in that work with me. So I'm really
yeah, that's
excited about
good.
I'm really excited about that. I'm really excited about the opportunity to get out, kind of branch out, I have a whole radius all the way around me
Yeah, and
that I'm willing to get out to.
that was the thing that I wanted to go explore when I was there. Was like um, the Potomac River. What was the other big one that and I know what you know. You know what I know. I'm trying to say. I can't think of the river. I don't know if you want to say it on here or not. But it's like
Yeah,
that was like that seemed like where a lot of people were killing birds at, and it's just we didn't have the equipment or we didn't know the people to take us to get to
yep,
there. Virginia holds a lot of birds. It's just we were just limited to where we
yeah,
could go, and going back to like we say on the expectations. Every season since I've been out here and I've hunted on the East Coast, I'll set a species that I want to kill, that I want to knock off. That way, if I do it, wonderful, beautiful. If not, oh well. It's always next year. You know what I mean? And I know our back in 18, I said I wanted to kill a widgeon. I love the way they looked. I mean, they're beautiful birds. I like all of the coloring, and we both killed one, and I marked
yeah,
that one off my list. And then last year was a pintail. I've been wanting to kill a pintail since like 2012, for a long time, and I knocked that one
yep.
off my list and know that. And this year I'm setting my sights on a redhead. I love redheads. I mean, we both share a love for redheads. You know what I mean? They're just man, they're just so cool. And I mean, that is my goal this whole duck season. I can get mounted, to put on my dead mount. So I mean, try that this duck season, guys. I mean, say like Ben said, like guys will shoot for a number, just shoot for a species, shoot for I don't know, man. Just keep it simple. Don't try to get I mean, don't try to get complex with it. That's just what I like to do. I go for a species. I like to, because again, like I said last weekend or last week, or last episode, whatever. As avid outdoorsmen, we're always trying to check off the list. That's why Hunt 41 exists. It's that no matter what you hunt, you're trying to check off another box on the list. Whether that's with fishing, hunting, whatever. As outdoorsmen, that's you're always trying to catch or kill something new. So I mean, that's
Yep.
something that I've worked and I've gotten a lot of gratification in the past. So maybe try that next time. If you've only killed wood ducks, try going for a ringneck or a bluebill, or maybe if you are hunting South Carolina only, maybe a mallard is a little too high on the list, and you maybe need to taper your expectations to what you're hunting.
Yep.
Don't get your heart set out. It's like I'm killing a mallard this year, and then you catch yourself not enjoying the hunts because you're not meeting those expectations.
Yep.
You're only killing wood ducks, or you're only,
Well,
there's a ringer
well,
every now and then. I
and
mean,
remember
just
what you're
just
doing.
like again, like we're like, oh, right, yeah. It just again, like what we said earlier, just live in the moment, just
Yep.
enjoy it. I mean, um, oh boy, that had permission, uh, hunted that we hunted with on Friday. After he killed 25, I think we killed like 7 or 8 geese on Friday. He's like, man, it should have been better. And we had this. So it was
Just
me,
happy to be
him,
out, man.
yeah, Dave, and then there was a family there. It was like a husband, a wife, and a little boy. I think he was like 9, 10. And out of the 7 we killed, I killed 2. The wife, she killed 1. She smoked a goose. Never shot at live moving targets, like no skeet, no ducks, no dove, nothing. She knocked down the first goose she shot at. She was, I mean, I have the video. She's like screaming of how happy she was. And the little boy, he was just over the moon. Like, he was so ecstatic just to be out. You just got to, I know when you're taking people out, it should have been better or it could have been better, whatever. You get caught up in those expectations, but it's like,
Yeah.
I got goose meat in the freezer that I love cooking and eating more than I do killing. And two, I was like, do you think that little boy's disappointed when we only killed 7? He's like, no.
Not
I'm
at
like, of course
all,
not.
man.
So
Not at all. That little
that
boy would have
kid
been happy
that
if he
kid
didn't
is
shoot a
hooked.
single thing.
Yeah, I mean, we had geese like actively working. Kind of sketched out, like I said, from the silhouettes, but we had geese working. I mean, I was sitting in the blind, and I could hear the wing flaps over us. You know what I mean? And they were talking back to us. I mean, it was the whole experience.
Yep.
And I was like, that boy don't care. He's like, that boy got to hold. He got to see geese. He heard geese. He saw geese fall, and he got to hold a goose. I was
Yep.
like, that boy. I said,
Yep.
he's hooked for life.
Without a
I said, that's
doubt,
what it's all
man.
about. I mean, go back to what David's saying. Is that the hunting numbers are low. What we're going back to is that getting new people out there. It's like,
Yep.
we don't need to be against each other. We all need to be united front.
Yep.
We need to support each other. We need to get new people out there. Because when people say, "Oh, it's too crowded," that's nonsense. Because no matter if you're in North Dakota or South Carolina, there's lots of water. There's a
Yeah.
shit ton of water in both places.
Yep.
It's just different.
Here's
And
the thing, man. Here's the
we
thing.
can easily share this sport with new people.
Yep. Without a doubt. And here's the thing. When people say that it's too crowded, I'm one of those people that I don't like to hunt in crowded areas. But you know what I do? I go and
Right.
I find somewhere else. I don't complain about other people being there. I go and
Right.
I find
And
somewhere
that's with
else.
anything.
And that's what you do. You don't sit there and say, this place is so crowded, and then just sit there and don't do anything about it, and then go to the same place
Yeah.
the next day. You go find somewhere else. You know what I mean? If it's too crowded and it's not the hunting that you want, go find somewhere else. There's like you said, there's water everywhere. There's public land
Right.
in most places. There's public land everywhere. You can find places to hunt. But another thing is when you know kind of plans for the future is you and I are talking about meeting up in North Carolina. That's a state that neither one of
Yep.
us have ever hunted. That's something to me that is exciting. We're going to go hunt
Yeah.
somewhere that neither one of us have ever hunted before. We're going to experience something we've never experienced before. We're going to put a weekend trip in. We're going to go on a Thursday or a Friday night or whatever, and we're going to go and we're going to scout an area out and we're going to hunt it that weekend. That is something that is extremely exciting just because we don't ever get to do something like that. So if you're in a
Right.
place like that where you can do a short weekend trip, go do it. Go experience it. Go have fun with it. And that's something that both of us are ecstatic about. And that's something that when looking at planning for a season, is something that is important because I'm guilty of this, where I will hunt a one spot because it was good to me, a couple of times, and I'll keep going back to that spot expecting it to be good. I'm very guilty of that, and I know other people
Right.
are. But go check new spots out. Go see what other places have to offer. North Carolina and Virginia. I mean, I've never hunted North Carolina. I've talked to people who have hunted it, but North Carolina is supposed to be, have some pretty decent duck hunting for the East Coast.
Especially for divers.
Yeah, and I'm excited to go try it. I'm excited to go check it out. I'm not just going to go down there and just go to a public land and, you know, shine my light in the dark and say this place looks good and set up. I'm going to go scout it.
Yeah.
I'm going to have
Right.
fun. I'm going to try to do it right. One, to be safe, and one, to have a good hunting. And to make sure that I'm not going to set up somewhere that I'm not legally allowed to set up. But But I'm excited for it because that's something that is different. That's something to look forward to within the season. And look, I'm not saying that you have to have something to look forward to in the season because you're gonna lose excitement. Because if you're trying to look for something to be excited about for duck season, you probably shouldn't be duck hunting because duck season alone is enough to get me excited. But
Right.
but it's something different. It's something exciting within something that you're already excited about. So definitely, if you have the opportunity, if you're in a state where another state is only an hour, 2 hour drive, go do it. Why not?
Right. But man, like a lot of the stuff we're saying too that I've noticed since we started this podcast, other people have said kind of the same things that someone else has said. Like I know Matt said it, Mikhail said it last week. We've said it just about scouting.
Yep.
And, they've all said if you're where the birds want to be, they're going to be there. You know what I mean? And then kind of going back to what Matt was saying too, is that he had a friend that said, man, one day I just left. I hooked the boat up and I went, and he's like, man, that's awesome. And then you're saying the same thing. It's like, what we're putting out, guys, isn't taboo. It isn't like just really out there. It's good information. As much as we like to joke around, and I mean, again, like we don't know everything, but we do know enough to be dangerous. We know enough to kill birds, especially if you're getting into waterfowl hunting in general. Take notes. I mean, listen to a part over again if you need something. Need a bit of information. Because we wouldn't be here. We wouldn't be wasting breath if we thought that it wasn't worth putting out. And I want you guys to know that we're not just sitting here bullshitting for our benefit. We want to make information readily available to someone that isn't sure about how to set up decoys or is looking at taking a guide next year or taking a trip out west, whatever the case may be. We're trying to get a centralized location of information, and so they can take what they need out of it and apply it their duck season. And after the Tecton game call, I'm gonna post, or we're gonna post we're gonna pin a post about this is where you can share your duck hunting experiences. And I want you guys to post a picture, say, hey, episode 7 really helped us, or episode 20 really helped us, and this is why.
Yep.
Or episode 8, 9, and 10, and 15 helped us. What I mean? We're gonna pin that to the top, and we're gonna share. This is where you can share your. What I mean? Please post pictures. Please, 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 please participate. Again,
Yep.
I mean, we're gonna beat this horse blue in the face. We want feedback from you guys. We wanted to know if you guys like it or not. We wanted to know if the information helped you in the season. So please, again, I mean, I know we've already talked about it, but if we ask for feedback or if we're doing a giveaway, it's to help us and it's to help you at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking duck hunting regardless. If we're not doing this podcast, Levi and I, we're either talking Cardinal baseball or we're talking duck hunting. So, I mean, seriously, we're talking duck hunting regardless. So we why not record us talking about it? I mean, we're doing this either way. But we really want to provide some kind of benefit to you guys. So if you come out and you say, hey, we want to hear something, we want to hear, just even if it's just our perspective, even if it's just something that we believe or we feel, it doesn't have to be. I'm not saying that I want to do everything that's informative. I enjoy just talking about it. Like, I mean, I would love to reach somebody who is learning or might not know, help other people, but I just like talking about it. So if there's a topic that you want to hear us talk about, informative or not informative, let us know. I mean, tell us what you want to hear. I mean, I will engage with you and ask what kind of stuff do you want to hear. If you say, hey, we want to hear what you guys think about about calling. All right, well, I would ask you, well, what specifically do you want to hear about calling? And and tell me, and we'll set that up. We set an agenda for every show. We talk about what points we want to talk about. So I mean, we could let you set our agenda for the show. Tell us what you want to hear. I mean, and we'll talk about our perspectives and whatever aspects that you want to hear. It doesn't have to be always informative. And that's kind of what we're getting at with just Levi and I here. We're with doing one show with just us. We just want to BS, So if we're sitting here just BSing about duck hunting, and it's just us. I mean, this is kind of the round the blind talk, But if we go to when we have our guests, I mean that's kind of our intended to be a little bit more informative, shows. I mean, obviously, when we're talking, there's going to be information that we want to share if we have it. But with our guests, like I said, it's going to be a little more informative. But like Levi said, be active on our Facebook. We are doing these giveaways. Help us get to 500. We do have our YouTube, the bow hunting vet, or bow hunting veteran. All of these are posted on there. Levi does have other content on there. Like he said, he had a camera for his last goose hunt. That's going to be up on there, right, Levi?
Yeah, I'm going to wait to see if I can get more footage from other – I think we are going to be doing another goose hunt, so I'm going to try to get more footage because a lot of the kill shots were passing shots, again, because they didn't like the silhouettes. I did get pretty good footage. There was one big group, probably about like 100, 120, 30 or somewhere in that range. And I got them. They're all just honking, coming over us. It's a really cool shot. Like I said, a lot of the kill shots were passing, were above us, were coming around the back, and I had it on the tripod. So
yeah.
I was a little selfish. I wanted to shoot some too. Sorry, but
yeah. Levi does have. I think Levi does have. What's up? Sorry.
No, you're good. But yeah, I think we are supposed to be going again. We should be getting permission from these landowners. So I'm going to kind of wait to compact it all into one episode or one.
Oh yeah, man. But yeah, so these like he does have other videos on the YouTube. We do have our own Twitters. We do have our own Instagrams. You guys can go check us out there. We are on all of the podcast sites: Spotify, Apple, Google, etc. So whichever one you use, subscribe and leave us whatever rating you want to leave us. If you think that we're a 1-star, give us a 1-star, but also tell us why you think we're a 1-star. Even if it's as much as, hey, you guys suck ass. All right, cool. Why do we suck ass? I mean, if we're just not your thing, then that's fine. Why are we not your thing? But just kind of let us know.
Tell us that we already knew, buddy.
But yeah, so comment on all the we do check those. So give us your ratings.
Yeah,
let us know what's up.
We've said it before. Yeah, we do. I probably check every day on Google to see if anyone else is rating. And again, like we care. I mean, we're saying this because we care. And when we say that, we appreciate you guys listening. And if you're listening this far ahead, I mean, we said that from our first podcast, and we've said it throughout our podcast up until this point. Neither one of us expected the audience, especially retention on audience that we have. I mean, it's crazy that we have almost 100 estimated audiences. Established
we started from nowhere.
We put in a podcast. Yeah, and then no one knows this out here. I mean, that's pretty much our main demographic is the East Coast. and we've blown. I don't want to say we've blown up. I mean, we've blown up to this point, and it's crazy. And like I said, I've said it in like episode 2 or 3. And I'm saying it now. I love getting on there and getting a notification that someone's liked our page. I love that in general. But then I go to that person's profile, and it's like Michigan or Colorado or whatever. I'm like, I don't know this person to begin with, or is he in South Carolina? And that's just awesome because it's reaching different corners. And kind of like what the guys from Combat Waterfowl says, that they wouldn't have been, they wouldn't be where they're at if they didn't have these guys in the corners of the country, like as they do, supporting their brand. Or I'm not asking for people to support us or share. I'm not asking about that. It's just cool to get different people onto our page, especially when I don't think I know anyone from Michigan.
Yeah. And so
but I mean, I'm gonna post every. I'm gonna post every guest we have. It's gonna put it as an event. I'll just give a little description, right? Whether it's a taxidermist or guide. If you have a question you want to hear, you can comment on that event, and we'll throw it in with our questions. I mean, if it's something you got, again, like I said, it's for this podcast or any podcast is for the listener, right? I don't care if it's for duck hunting. I don't care if it's about baseball or football or college sports, whatever. It's for the listener. It's to inform. The main goal is to inform the listener, right? If Georgia gets a quarterback transfer, you want to listen to that podcast about that quarterback, where he's come from, what he specializes in, et cetera, whatever. I mean, this is the same thing for this podcast. I mean, we want to, again, we've said this from episode 1. We're saying it now. We want to help your season get better, whether it's from decoy spread, killing birds in general, or calling, or picking a guy to whatever it is. We want to help you guys and help your season. Again, I mean, I know it sounds redundant, but everything goes back to 100 satisfaction, like what David said. And we want to keep those numbers. And I don't think the average person realizes how much power they hold just being a license holder. You know what I mean? Like going to the meetings, making your voice actually heard about said subjects or topics, whatever is going on in either your community, your state, region, whatever it is. So, I mean, you guys really do have a voice, and it needs to be heard, whether it's something that the government's doing, or like I don't want to say the government, but the chapter government, or it could be the government. I don't know. Like I know
any kind of local group or authority or anything, legislation.
That's the word I was looking for.
Whether it's Ducks Unlimited, local legislation, local government, any kind of group that holds any kind of power. If you're not there providing your input, then your perspective is being lost.
Right.
But yeah, guys. So as we've stated about 25 times in this one episode, we really do appreciate your involvement. We really do appreciate your support. We really do appreciate your listen. So be active on our Facebook. Check out our YouTube. Subscribe on whatever your podcast site is. But that's it for us. For Levi and I on this podcast. Like I said, we will have our guest on the back end on our next episode, and then we will continue it to be like this, with one with us and then one with the guest for the rest of the way. But enter for your giveaways. Win yourself a lanyard and win yourself a Tecton game call. But this has been the Round the Blind podcast, guys.
Absolutely.
Thank you for listening.